What's up guys, today I want to go over Destiny 2's Armor 3.0 Archetype problem, and this was a huge discussion going into the DLC, the way this new system would limit stat combinations and build crafting. And now that we're over a full month into the DLC, I wanted to revisit this conversation and look at if it actually was a problem. If it was, how big of a problem is it, and discuss how tier 5 armor kind of alleviates a little bit of the core problem, and then potentially some solutions to make the system a little bit better. So start off with just some basic knowledge to make sure we're all on the same page for the discussion. In Destiny 2 currently, with the new armor system, there are 6 archetypes of armor, and these will determine the primary and secondary stats on the armor. So there are 6 different ones. First one being Brawler, which comes with melee as the primary stat and health as the secondary, and the tertiary is random between the other 4. And for tier 5 armor, or the best tier 4 armor, your primary is always 30 of that stat, secondary is 25, and tertiary is going to be 20. And we also have Grenadier, which comes with grenade and super, Paragon, which comes with super and melee, Gunner, that comes with weapons and grenade, Specialist, that comes with class and weapons, and Bulwark, that comes with health and class. And those are the only 6 combinations of primary and secondary groupings for armor currently in the system. And so there's a lot of talk that this would just naturally greatly limit the amount of different variations and stat combinations you could have with this system. And while that is true, I do think tier 5 armor helps out a little bit. So if you don't know, a lot of people haven't probably experienced tier 5 armor yet, so this might up that number a little bit. But on tier 5 armor, there is a additional feature called tuning. And every tier 5 armor piece has a random stat that you can tune, where you would remove 5 stat from something else and give it to that stat that you can tune. So for example, on this helmet I'm looking at currently, I have weapons tuning, which means I can subtract 5 stat from anything else and give it to weapons instead. Or if I don't care about giving weapons +5, you also have an option of balance tuning to just add 1 to the 3 masterwork stats, the 3 that aren't focused on the armor piece. And so what this allows is for you to kind of make whatever archetype you want to some extent. So for example, effectively with this system, any 2 stats can be primary and secondary, or secondary and primary. One of the biggest talking points was super and weapons, but with tuning you can have, let's say, 30 weapons, 25 super, or 25 weapons and 30 super. And so in a way, with tuning you can make anything primary and secondary, or any of the 6 combinations from the archetypes be 30-30. A good example of how tier 5 can completely change your build on Warlock, and a lot of the melee builds in the game, I don't really care to have health. So naturally for melee build with 200 melee, you would go for Brawler, and you'd be stuck with having 25 health on every armor piece. But with this tuning, you can actually go for Paragon, which will make it so you have super and melee, and your super would come at 30, and your melee would come out 25, but if you get a melee tuning option, you can get 30-30, and finally 20 of whatever tertiary stat you want, let's say grenade. And that obviously makes a lot more sense on Warlock, where we don't necessarily need health with Devour. So tier 5 kind of fixes the problem and kind of allows you to make your own primary and secondary stats. But where this system completely falls short and just completely flops is the combination of 3 stats you want. You can't really do anything about that at all. There's actually 2 combinations of stats that you literally can't get with any combination at all. And I'm not even talking about like exact primary, exact secondary, exact tertiary. I'm talking about just the 3 stats in any order, any variation you just can't simply get. And that's going to be health, weapons, and super, the melee, grenade, and class. Every other combination of the 3 stats can be found, but you won't have any control of what's primary, what's secondary, what's tertiary. So while the system doesn't necessarily narrow down your primary and secondary options, but it does narrow down having the 3 stats you want, and even more precisely, having them as the exact primary, secondary, and tertiary you want. That you have almost no control over in this system outside of the 6 archetypes. And even with the tier 5 focusing, with the way the ghost mods just seem to not work at all right now, it's very, very hard to actually get what you want with tier 5 armor. On Kepler, where you can actually focus the slot you want, so let's say I need a chest piece, I can focus chest piece on Kepler and do the loot cave. And even then, it's still 1 in 144 chance to get the exact combo I want. So, for example, in Warlock, I was farming Paragon with Grenade Tertiary and a Melee Tuner to get 30 Super, 30 Melee, and 20 Grenade. And even if we're getting chest piece every single time, it's still 1 in 6 to get Paragon because the ghost mods don't work. Then it's 1 in 4 to get the right tertiary. Then it's 1 in 6 to get the right tuning. If you add that all together, it's 144. So even with this system, it's still really, really hard to get what you want. Now, if the ghost mods actually did work, you know, you divide that number by 6 and it'd only be 1 in 24, which would be a lot more manageable. But even more so elsewhere in the game where you can't focus which armor slot you want, times 144 by 5, it becomes 720. If you're farming something like Trials or Crucible, you may as well just forget it and not actually try to get what you want. It is practically impossible. So even though tier 5 armor does help some of the core issues with this system, it's really hard to get what you want, and it's still not even a perfect solution. It really just helps out for the primary secondary combinations, but as we mentioned multiple times, the grouping of 3 stats is practically uncontrollable, and you only have so many options you can even do. So what are some of the solutions they could do? Well, I think the easiest solution is, as we mentioned, there's those 2 combinations of stats that aren't literally possible at all. So maybe just add 2 more archetypes to cover those 2 combos that aren't currently possible, and that would obviously help create even more primary, secondary, tertiary combos that aren't currently possible. So that would help a little bit, but definitely wouldn't be like the ultimate solution. So honestly, in my opinion, I think just throwing away archetypes as a whole would probably be the best move and just move to a full out focusing system. And I think the way this focusing system could work is you just have a new ghost functionality or like a new item in your inventory that you can right click and open up, and it'll allow you to focus your armor drops. And if you remember previous episodes where you could focus like your next 5 drops, imagine something like that. And the way the system would work is, I think for free, you should be able to focus the primary stat. So let's say I want grenade armor, I can focus grenade as the primary stat, and then all my drops come with grenade as the primary stat. And then if that's all I did, the secondary and tertiary would be random. There's no more archetypes in the game. Every single combination is possible. So imagine in the system there's multiple slots to focus. So the first slot is primary, and that one should be free, kind of the same way ghost mods should be working, right? And then if you want to narrow down your search even more, you could focus the secondary, and this one should probably cost some currency. I'm not sure what that currency would be or the cost. That's obviously game dev balancing decisions. And let's say you did that, your next 5 drops would drop with that primary and that secondary stat every single time. And in my opinion, that might be where you would want to stop. I think having some RNG of the 1 in 4 of the tertiary is probably still fine, right? But if you wanted to continue, you could make it so you can focus primary, secondary, and tertiary, and obviously that would cost even more. And if they want to give you more agency on the tuning for tier 5 armor, I think it would just be like a reroll system. I don't think you would need to make it a focusing system. Just give us a way to re-roll what the tuning option is, maybe with the same currency as the focusing system. But I think that would work out pretty well. Just imagine like in your ghost, you have 3 slots where you can focus the primary stat on your armor, secondary, and tertiary, and the primary one should probably be free, kind of the equivalent of the current ghost mods. Then to focus the secondary at the same time, it would cost maybe a little bit of unstable cores, wherever the currency would be, and then for tertiary a lot more. But when you do focus all 3, you're going to be getting exactly what you want, so it'd be worthwhile. And I'm not suggesting that it has to cost something to make it secondary. It's just what makes sense to me. Obviously, if they did use unstable cores, they would have to lower the cost of infusing like across the board and up maybe the drops of unstable cores, which is something they need to do anyways. But if they did use the same currency, it would obviously be changed even more so to offset. But obviously, this is stuff that is more dev side and not something I can really think through and know what the balance would actually look like. And like I said, I personally would probably stop at just being able to focus the primary and secondary, and I think the 1 in 4 RNG would still probably be fine. It is a looter shooter, you want some chase and RNG in the game, but also I wouldn't be against all 3. As long as there was a decent investment into being able to focus all 3, that way you just couldn't farm like the perfect armor instantly and just kind of be done. But yeah, that is my solution to this whole system, and the one that I think would work out the best. I think adding an archetype that covers every single primary and secondary combination would just be kind of crazy and would make it harder to get the armor you want than you would actually think. If there was like 72 different options for ghost mods, I don't think that would really help at all. So I don't think that would be the route. And an actual dedicated focusing system might be the way to go. Anyways, that's just been something I've been thinking about since this system came out. And let me know what you think about it, or if you have a different idea that you think would work better, or if you don't even think it's a problem at all. Anyways, like usual, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.